The modern ban list is full of some pretty degenerate cards, but how do they stack up in Commander?
I'm Mia, and I love our little intern Miso.
I'm BZ, and I love Field of the Dead in every format. That makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. We make daily videos, and I'm thinking if you want to support daily videos, head over to Cool Stuff Inc. and use code
NERDS
at checkout to save 5% on your order.
We're also sponsored by Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
You can use our EU and US links down in the description below. You could buy some sleeves, get some awesome sleeves for yourself, and then support us too.
We're sponsored by Moxfield. You'll never guess where the ad is. Feel free to try. You will fail. And happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today. So this is a tier list video. Very simple. We've got every card banned in Modern, and we're going to grade them from S tier all the way down to everyone's favorite tier, Poop tier, based on how good they are in Commander. So we have to first shrink to our desired size. Do you have a way to shrink?
I think I know a way.
What do you got?
Let's do it.
That was a lot scarier. But now that we're small, look, a computer. We did it. Okay. I've got the official Nitpicking Nerds computer. And we're going to start with Ancient Den, which is standing in for Seat of the Synod, Vault of Whispers, Great Furnace, and Tree of Tales. They're untapped artifact lands that make a mana of any color, one color for each land. It's a full cycle. These, turns out, are completely busted because it makes your affinity for artifact count silly. Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating, all these cards just go completely ham sandwich, and they're not tenable. You can't have them in the format, especially because you don't want to ban like one of them. So you have stuck with 5 of them, and that's 20 copies you could play.
I mean, I think they're synergistic in Commander in artifact decks, but we don't really see them played outside of that, especially since they are susceptible to removal with giant like board wipes like Farewell or Vandal Blast.
Yeah, they get swept up pretty often, and if I'm playing let's say I'm playing Esper, I don't know if I want to play more than like 4 artifact lands. I mean, you already have someone's like Treasure Vault, and then there's the tapped dual lands. I don't think these are very good at all. They're not like special like they are in 1v1, where they're completely busted. So that's how this is going to go. I'm going to give it why it's banned in Modern. Mia's going to tell us why it's good in Commander, and then we're going to reach a consensus. Next is Arkham's Astrolabe. It's a snow mana for an artifact, ETB draw card, and it helps mana fix. Turns out, not even remotely okay. This is banned all over the place. It's banned in like Pauper. Too good for Legacy. It makes things just messed up. You can't just give someone mana fixing for nothing.
We don't really see this in Commander for the most part, and I think there's a reason why. I think there are better choices.
It's a snow. Like, you're not going to always play snow in Commander. It's not strictly better per se like it is in Constructed. Do you want to just give Poop tier? You're never going to see Arkham's Astrolabe unless it's a snow deck.
Yeah, and there are so few of those to begin with.
Yeah, let's go to an actual sweet one, Birthing Pod. You can chain up creatures into the next mana value by sacrificing them. This was banned a long time ago. Some people say it could be unbanned, but it could chain, Kitchen Finks into Resto, into Kiki Jiki, and all that sort of thing. Or it's just Valley Town.
I mean, we've seen the sheer power of this in like Blood Pod decks and CEDH, and this is just really, really good. I'd say if this isn't in like A tier or bare minimum B, then what are we really doing? Yeah, this is easily a B. What do you think, B or A? Because I don't think it's S, but it's really good. It's like you build your whole deck around this card. I think it could go A, and maybe an A-, and we could always bump it down. We'll start in A, because Birthing Pod is sweet, super really
fun,
good.
And it's just really strong. Next is Blazing Shoal. Probably you've never heard of this if you play Commander, but you can cast it for free by exiling a red creature from your hand, or a red card, and then it gives a creature +X+O, where X is the mana value of the card you exiled. People were just pitching Progenitus to kill you with infect creatures. That's not fun. That's nonsense. I mean, combat tricks aren't that great, especially in a 3-player format that only targets one creature. So I don't think this is really viable. No, this is just hot garbage, right? Like a combat trick that you got to pitch a card for, it seems horrible. Yeah. Like it's nothing. It's so funny that we don't even know what this card is in Commander. Bridge from Below gives you zombies if it's in your graveyard and your stuff is like dying, and then it can be sacrificed. This was around with like Hogak and Faithless Looting, who are also on here that we'll get to later. Have you ever seen a Bridge from Below in play or in the graveyard? I have not. I mean, I think that bare minimum it has to be D at that point, maybe even Poop. This is a classic Poop tier. If you play Bridge from Below in Commander, I'd love to hear about it, but you're a champion. You're a real champion. Chromox. You can exile a card from your hand, and then it makes a mana of the color of the card. So this is a 0 mana, like, fast mana rock. Yeah, I mean, this goes in any deck that you can really play it in. I think the only restriction is really whether your playgroup allows
cards like this.
Yeah, it's one of the best 100 cards in the entire format. It's fast mana. It's busted. It makes whenever someone says I had a crazy turn 1 or 2, this is probably one of the cards that was involved in it. Cloud Post. Cloud Post makes mana equal to the number of locusts you have, like locust lands. We can only play one.
I can't even
Commander.
name a locust land, so I'm going to put that in poop tier.
It's a complete poop tier. You have to clone it or something. It's so not worth the trouble. It's busted because of 4 copies in a deck, not because of 1 copy in 100. Dark Depths. You got to remove 20 counters from it. Then you get a 20/20 indestructible. There's a lot of 2-card combos with this that just give you a 20/20 for free. Is that much of an issue in Commander?
I mean, I've never seen this. I don't
Really?
want to. I've seen it maybe once or twice in my entire time of playing Commander, so I'm not going to say this is like a very common thing, but that's what I was going to say. I don't think I'd put it in poop tier, considering I have seen it more than 0 times.
No, I've seen it a lot. I just don't think it's very good. I think
No.
it folds to a ham sandwich. Maybe let's just give it like a C. People
Oh,
love
really?
to play it. It's a big thing, but it's jumpable. It's swordsable. It gets bounced. It gets deluged or whatever, even though that's a hefty price.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe D because we don't see it that often, but I think C is still fine.
You know what?
too.
We'll toss it top of D.
Okay.
See it more than Ancient Den. Deathray Shaman's my boy. This is a mana dork. He wants fetch lands in the graveyard. This functions as graveyard hate for your opponents, ramp, life gain, and life loss for your opponents. That's busted in a format where you can play fetch lands as like half of your lands and always have it. Plus, you have 4 of this. It's never bad. It's bad into 0 matchups. But Commander, what do we think about it?
I mean, I still think it's great in Commander. You're still able to get the triggers of exiling lands, especially if your playgroups are the ones playing a lot of fetch lands, because you have 3 times the players to do it also.
I think this card's great in Commander. I mean, we always play fetch lands. There's not as many in every deck, but there's more players to make it up for it. I think A?
I think A is good. I think
looks
it
good.
equals out, and especially at 1 mana, and you can pay in either black or green, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, 1 mana dorks are hard to come by, and this one's really, really good. Next is Dig Through Time. It's Delves, and it looks at the top 7. You pick 2 of them. That's just too consistent. As it turns out, like the combo decks, like this is basically Demonic Tutor for them, especially at 60 cards. So, like when you're thought scouring and all of even considering, you're just gonna turbo and fetch lands. You're turboing your graveyard. This is too easy to cast. Warps the game way too much, so it's banned in Modern.
I mean, I think with 100 cards, it's definitely harder to get to those giant pieces that you might be looking for, so it's not as effective in Commander. But I still think looking at 7 is a really great effect.
I think this card's pretty great. I kind of want to put it in like B tier.
Yeah,
I
I would
like
say.
a B tier card. It's really good at drawing cards. You could still fill your graveyard. You just can't have Dig Through Time every game.
Yeah, the Delve is really, really good, and just
Delve
the
is broken.
selection, pretty nice.
Yeah, Delve's busted. Dread Return is next. It reanimates a creature for 4, or you can flash it back by sacrificing 3 creatures for free to reanimate a creature from your graveyard. That's pretty dope. I love that this card in Commander is like a draft common, and it's like Dredge superstar, like, oh my god, we can't allow this in Modern.
I really like Dread Return, especially with the new art that just came out in Commander Masters. But it's just good value. Get your best thing from your graveyard for 4 mana. That's not that bad. And then just sack 3 other creatures. They could just be just 1/1s or 0/1s, just creatures you don't care about, and get your next best thing out again.
Yeah, where would you put it? It's a tough one, because like this can
C or B?
Yeah, I think C's fine. It's part of like some combos and some really good stuff. It's super efficient when you flash it back. C seems totally fair.
Yeah.
Eye of Ugin, quite possibly the #1 most busted card on the entire ban list right now. Eldrazi costs 2 less. When Oath of the Gatewatch came out and they started printing 2, 3, 4, and 5 mana Eldrazi, that's busted. That's broken in half. If you ever have watched that Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch, it's hilarious because some people were not ready for it. They didn't figure that deck out, and it annihilated them.
With Eye of Ugin, most decks don't want it, but the ones who do really do. It's so specialized.
Yeah, it is basically useless, right? Like,
Yeah, for every
only
deck except,
Eldrazi decks play it.
Yeah, except for the big Kozilek decks that I
Probably
really
like
really
D.
want. Yeah,
Just like you never see it. It's not that good.
yeah, it's good where you want it, but most decks don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as good as it is in Modern, where it sculpts an entire deck around it and annihilates the format. Faithless Looting, draw 2, discard 2, flashback for the same thing. This card fuels graveyard strategies too much, and it's kind of egregious with Dredge.
I think its utility in red nowadays, and I think that it's good like selection, but I think with 100 cards, it's not as good as in modern. So I think it would be
I
like
don't really
very
play
D
this
or
card.
C.
Yeah, and I never play Faithless Looting. Do you?
Not really. I can think maybe one budget deck that I have it in.
It
Maybe.
feels like a D. I don't know.
Yeah.
Outside of Madness, I am like not really interested in it.
I think it's usable, but it's not like actively good.
Yeah, and now it's time for one of my favorite cards ever, Moxfield.com. That's the best way to build a deck online. And if I was looking to put, I don't know, Field of the Dead in a deck, I could check to see what the price is. I could sort the cards, sort the lands. I could tag the lands, Field of the Dead and not Field of the Dead, and sort them that way. I think Moxfield honestly makes this really easy to do.
If you go to our Moxfield account, you can see every single deck that BZ has and check to see whether Field of the Dead is in it or
If it's not a budget deck, it's probably in there.
Even the mono white one.
Yes, but Field of the Dead is an actual card in terms of Magic the Gathering. I was surprised this got banned in Modern because that requires 7 lands, but Primeval Titan and all that stuff makes it trivial, and they start Valakooting and all that type of stuff. So Field of the Dead, it's a really busted 1v1 card, but it's still one of my favies in Commander.
I mean, Field of the Dead is banned in what, like 6 formats or something?
At least 4, I think.
So I'm not surprised that it's banned here, but it is a really good card. I know you'd probably say like S plus 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 plus, but I'd say bare minimum B or A.
Let's be realistic. It's not S because it's no Chromox. You have to be kind of playing fair Magic where you want to get to turn 8, right? You don't want to combo off on turn 3. This card does nothing and it enters tapped and sucks. But I think if for all these casual pods and the like fair Magic, this is just a card you can put in any 2-color deck or more. So I want to give it like, how about bottom of A?
Yeah, that's good.
You know I've been coerced if I putting Field of the Dead in the bottom of A.
You watch this happen here, folks.
You did. Gitaxian Probe basically costs 0, looks at someone's hand, draws you a card. In Modern, this was starting to, like, once people figured it out that this card was busted, it was just in every deck, and it was obnoxious, and it made your deck 56 cards.
I mean, get Probe in CEDH, you see how good it is. It cannot even cost 1 blue mana. It's just 2 life, and it replaces itself immediately. I'd say this can go in any deck that runs blue.
I think this card's just amazing. Even if you can only play one of them, it's still just what I call air, where you're playing a 100-card deck, but this card always cycles immediately and gives you some kind of bonus and replaces itself. So it's like you're playing a 99-card deck. It's just consistency.
With baubles, that would make it 98, 97, whatever.
Exactly. I'm going to give, like, B, maybe? Or maybe just bottom of A.
I'd say bottom of A because it can go in any blue deck.
Yeah. All right. Glimpse of Nature, really only good in Elves, but it would make Elves, I think, too good because whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card.
Yeah, I actually don't even play this in my Elf deck because Lathril needs so many bodies on the field. But I don't know. I don't see it in Commander because of that. Because I think there are, in Elf decks and just decks that rely on a certain creature type, you want more of those creatures in your 100-card deck than actual, like, spells that aren't those creature type.
Yeah, sometimes I'd rather just have Beast Whisperer. And I haven't put this in too many decks, if any. Just, like, bottom of D.
Yeah.
Maybe above Eldrazi. Maybe I have a Ugin.
Yeah.
All right. Golgari Grave Troll. Who even cares what this card says on it? It's got Dredge 6. It's the highest dredge number of any card. There is no other dredge 6, and that coupled with all of these like cathartic reunions and faithless looting and Narcomoeba and all of this other crap just means that your deck is super consistent and you can throw 18 cards in the graveyard on turn 2.
I mean, I don't see this being played in Commander because 6 out of your 100 cards, I mean, that's just poop, right?
I think it is poop tier. I don't think he's playing anything competitive or not that that's what we're judging this by, but I don't think it has any competitive presence, and I don't think it's a card I consider too much for graveyard decks at all.
No, absolutely not. I think that there are much better choices that you could be putting into your deck, even with 100 slots.
Yeah. Green Sun Zenith is next. This searches for a green creature, mana value X, puts it into play, then you shuffle it back into your library. This thing I think is just toolboxy for what they want out of Modern. It can go get Dryad Arbor on turn 1, so it's never like a card you can't cast. Kind of just too much of a toolbox value engine.
I think Green is looking for more big finishers like Finale or Genesis Wave or something. So I think that bringing this out early isn't as good in Commander as it is in Modern.
Oh, so you don't... Well, yeah, it's not that great early, but do you like the card in Commander?
I haven't seen it too much in Commander, but I think it is good. But I also just think there are better. Like, it's not an S, I'd say.
I don't really know, like, the exact ranking of Green tutor creature cards like Finale and Chord and whatever, but like Green Sun Zenith is pretty amazing, especially if you play our Dryad Arbor and you can still just play it on turn 1. I would advise you play Green Sun Zenith in any green heavy creature deck. So top of B.
Yeah.
It's just like a really good value card. It's probably one of the best green tutors, I think. Hogak, the Gaxter. Ristic Studies just did a great video on this. So if you want the full rundown of what this dude did, you can go watch that. But he can cast it from your graveyard. He's got Delve and Convoke. And then he's just unbeatable. He's just an 8/8 for basically 2 mana.
I mean, the big thing about it being broken in Modern was the fact that it was swinging for so much damage turn 2.
People were doing Bloodghast, Vengevine, Stitcher Supplier. It was not fair.
But we have 40 life each in Commander, so I think that's so much more trivial.
It's useless. It really doesn't make a dent at all, and it's not worth all of the setup you have to do because you don't have any guarantee you're going to find Hogak. So I pooped here?
Poop.
No one plays this card. Get out of here, Hogak. Hypergenesis. Everyone can put all their stuff into play. That's bad, right, in Commander?
That's so bad. You have 3 other opponents. That's not even like
Just shove it right into poop tier.
bottom of poop.
Clearly can be broken, especially when you cast it for free, like with As Foretold in Modern. This is not that environment. Clark Clan Ironworks. Sack an artifact, make 2 mana. This actually was like really annoying because it would start to like violate, like timing restrictions on things, and like it counts as a mana ability, so you can like pay for costs and like sack 2 creatures and loop Scrap Trawler. It was the worst. I hated this deck.
KCI is good in Commander. We have
Super
a friend
good.
with a Joyride deck, I think, and she was just looping a bunch of stuff. It's really, really good still.
Yeah, card's amazing.
If you have the synergy for it, it's one of the biggest powerhouses in your artifact decks. I'd say B or A because it's colorless.
Let's do right here. How about that?
Yeah,
That's
that
good
works
to
for me.
Luris. Luris started out as one of the most broken Magic cards ever printed. I believe LSV said it was better than Ancestral Recall, and I believe him. Then he got nerfed to where you have to pay 3 extra mana to even use them. Still broken. Then got banned in Modern because that even with the restriction of playing permanents that cost 2 or less, way too good.
I think Lurrus is so good, even with the restriction now. But in the command zone, we have a friend who has a Lurrus deck, and it just kind of dirtles, a little bit of life here and there. And it's still so good because Lurrus is in the command zone.
Luris is pretty okay. I have no problems with Luris. I just don't think he's a menace.
No, I don't think he's a menace, but I think he's value. And
I think as a companion, he's kind of a joke in Commander. Like you're just doing a restriction for fun. You're not making a good deck.
No, I've never seen him as a restriction in Commander, or a companion as Commander. But I think as a Commander himself, he's really good. He comes down very cheap, and there's a lot of value to be had.
Want to just stick him in C? C tier? He's all right.
I was like, maybe bottom of B, but like I'm fine with C. I'm fine with C.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a must-have. Mental Misstep can be cast for free, encounters a spell that costs 1. Really like parasitic card. It makes any format it's in warp to become about it, and it makes the first few turns of the game awful. We don't have to worry about the Commander though, because curves don't just exist at 1, 2, and 3. They're 1 through 8.
This is played in CEDH, but in the general form of casual Commander, it's never played. There are so few targets for it.
Yeah, let's throw it up in like D then. For you CEDH people, we'll throw it in D. Next up is Mox Opal. It costs 0, and it taps for any color if you have 3 artifacts. It obviously is one of those artifacts, but this is basically a straight up Moxen. It was one of the best cards in Modern for a long time because they refused to ban it, and Affinity was just like a tier 1 deck for the whole time it was legal.
I mean, I think this is way harder to use in Commander, especially since you only have one of these in your 100-card deck, so it is harder to find and harder to use earlier because there's not as many free artifacts.
I have this, like, as far as fast mana goes, there's Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox. I have this, like, right below those because you kind of have to make sure you have a lot of artifacts that cost 2, 1, and 0 to make sure it's always on, but I'd probably put this at the top of A.
Sure.
It's still fast mana.
It's no Chrome Mox, but yeah, it's still good. All
right, Mycosynth Lattice, or as my friend Ken says, Microsoft Lettuce. This makes all permanents artifacts, and this was banned, I think, in part because of Karn, the Great Creator. The play pattern was play Karn, plus them or minus them, who cares? Next turn, if they didn't answer Karn, okay, I'll just go get Microsoft Lettuce for my sideboard, and now you can't play Magic because your lands don't have abilities.
I think that this is a big effect, but I also think you're so susceptible to removal with artifact board wipes,
In Modern, no one is playing Destroy All Artifact cards in the main board. In Commander, they absolutely are. This is, I would say, garbage.
Yeah, this makes your entire deck. I'm not gonna say entire deck unplayable, but you better win on the turn that this is out.
It's so risky. You have to Karn them or like Vandal Blast them, or they're going to do it to you. Mystic Sanctuary. Turns out an island that is fetchable that returns a spell to the top of your deck is broken, and it was looping with like Cryptic Command, and it was just in every deck. I think there was 4 color decks that were playing this card. Way too good. No one saw it coming. It's a common. How do you feel about it in Commander?
I mean, we don't really see it looped in Commander, but I do see it played in Commander, especially with spell slinging decks. It's still good.
I think if you're heavy blue, it's just a staple. It's like an auto include, right?
Yeah.
It's a land, right? This is like B tier?
Yeah, and it comes in untapped if you meet the restrictions. So I
Card's
think it's
great.
really good.
Yeah. All right, Oko. He elks things. He makes foods. He switches control of things. He's way too good for 3 mana. When he came out, he was the best planeswalker of all time, but I think pros would say there's been 2 or 3 better ones since then. But right now, he is the best one legal in Modern.
I mean, I think elking things.
Wait, the best one not legal in Modern.
I think elking things is really funny, but we see him sometimes. He's definitely not super bad, but he's also not a must play in any deck that can run him.
I put him in the C tier.
Yeah,
Seems like where the C tier is going to be. Like, I think you could play him in any Simic deck. You just don't have to. He's just good. You're going to nuke somebody's commander, and they're going to be sad about it. Once upon a time, you can cast it for free if it's the first spell. That seems like it's broken, I guess. That I didn't get a chance to play too much with this card because it got banned in like every format it was legal in very quickly. The selection of it was just too much. I think it just led to very repetitive games. I know the ramp decks were going to find all their lands they wanted, all the creatures they needed. You always had a 1-drop with this thing. It just was too much.
I mean, I think it's one of those types of cards where playing 1 versus 4 of them, and then also playing in a 100-card deck versus a 60-card, makes this so much less effective and so much less scary in a 4-player game.
Casual Commander players might not even know this card exists because we never sees any play. I would be stunned if this card was in more than like 2,000 decks on EDH Rec. I can't check that right now, but feel free to yourself, and I think we might just stick it in Poop.
Yeah, Poop is good.
Ponder looks at the top 3 cards. You can shuffle your deck, then you draw a card. That's a lot of selection, and it makes these like, storm decks, combo decks way more consistent, and it also is just very good selection that you kind of can't leave out of blue decks. It's makes the format less diverse.
I mean, Ponder's fine, right? Like, we still play it in decks that need a lot of little cantrips, but it's not necessary, and for one man it's not bad, but it's just fine, I think.
You really don't need it unless you're Spellslinger. Let's just put it in like C.
Yeah, bottom of C is fine.
This next one, I have heard people say that it doesn't need to be banned in Modern, and it's certainly garbage in Commander, but it's Punishing Fire, 1 in a red to deal 2 to any target, but if an opponent gains life, like with Grown for the Burn Willows, forcing them to, you could get it back to your hand. Clearly this is dog water in Commander.
But it didn't Poop. I didn't even know this card existed until we started looking at this list.
It's so bad. People were saying it would... Some people have said it won't even do anything in Modern if they unbanned it, but it's a really good value engine in slower games. Rite of Flame. Red, add red. But you also get an extra red for each Rite of Flame in the graveyard. Clearly this is busted for Storm, and only Storm.
Yeah, it's not usable in Commander because we can only play 1 copy of it.
Yeah, you know what? Well, it's still red to make red. So it's a Pyretic Ritual. It's okay. I think I've seen it in some CDH decks. Maybe we'll just give it the old bottom of D treatment.
Yeah, I was like, I guess if you really need that red fast.
I think some decks play it. Some CDH decks. And actually, fun fact that I learned, the only mono white card on the entire Modern ban list is Second Sunrise. It returns all the artifacts that died this turn from the graveyard to the battlefield. People were playing all the chromatic spheres and chromatic stars, looping them, sacking them, drawing cards, going even on mana, and then getting them all back, taking 20-minute turns, winning game 1, and then the match would end.
I'm not a big fan of these only this turn type deals because it's so hard to just kind of place that with timing restrictions.
Yeah. This deck was called Second Breakfast because it would get back all your eggs.
I have heard of that, actually. Yeah. I don't think it's good in Commander.
No, I've never seen this card, and I don't think you need to. It feels like a D. It's certainly playable,
but don't.
The card I have seen, though, is Seething Song. It makes a lot of mana. It's 3 mana to make 5 red. It's a nice little boost. That's too much of a boost, they say, for these Storm decks. Storm is specifically been nerfed 4 times on this ban list. They don't want it to be this dominating turn 3 deck. So Seething Song's banned.
I've seen Seething Song in Commander at least a few times, and I think it's good where it's necessary, especially if you're playing a lot of little spells or you need that colored mana for something. But it doesn't go into every deck that plays red.
I was thinking C. What were you
Yeah,
thinking?
like C. That's like,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's not great.
You'll
it's
see
not
it.
terrible.
It makes mana. Sensei's Dividing Top. Have you heard of this one? It rearranges the top of your deck. It takes too long. That's why it's banned in most formats, is because the time-consuming nature of it means that it's always worth it to spin the top. It's always worth it to fetch, to then spin the top again, and it's egregious. It makes games take too long.
I mean, I think it's great in Commander, it combos with certain things like Aether Flux, and it goes into every deck because it's colorless, and it only costs 1 mana.
Yeah, do you feel like it's S tier?
No, I don't think it's S tier, but
Maybe like right here?
yeah, I'd say A's good.
It's really, really strong. You can put it in most decks, and it has a lot of synergy with anything that cares about the top of your deck. Simian Spirit Guide. This was banned alongside Mox Opal because we had decided that 0 mana, make 1 mana is too good for Modern, so got banned.
I've seen Simian Spirit Guide in some CEDH decks, but in the vast majority of Commander, I don't see it played.
Yeah.
So I think it's very niche, and I'd say, well, where did you put one of the other CEDH cards?
I think if your commander is like 4 mana and it draws a card in some fashion, you could play this card. It's probably like a top of D.
Yeah.
I want to play it more. I'm getting a little higher on Lotus Petal in the fair decks. Just like I have like a Queen Marchesa deck, and it's like, well, she always replaces herself, so I'll get her out on turn 2 if I got to discard 2 cards, because that's 2 cards I'll get sooner. And so I'm just thinking about fair ways to use it like that. I think Simian Spirit Guide's playable. Just like Skull Clamp, it draws you 2 cards when your creature dies, and it makes your creature die.
Skullclamp is so good.
One of the most historically broken Magic cards ever.
I mean, I would put it in S.
Yeah, it's just an
It's
S.
so good.
I think you could generally just put it in any deck and have it be amazing. You need just a little bit of build around, and it's dumb. Next is one of the most iconic banned cards, Splinter Twin. Combos with Deceiver Exarch, which enters and untaps a creature. So you tap a creature to have a creature enter, and then you untap the creature with Splinter Twin, which can now tap to make another one of itself, which untaps it, to make infinite hasty copies. Super strong combo finish. This was a deck that was dominating for a long time. It won a lot of Grand Prix, and it was just a control deck that had a bunch of the best cards in the format, but also sometimes you lose on turn 4.
I mean, we can definitely attribute some good combos to making copies, but we also have Kiki Jiki in the command zone and certain things.
It feels really replaceable and not needed at all.
Yeah, so I think there are better options, but it's not completely poop,
Yeah, I like bottom of D-ish, You're
Yeah,
not
I'd
gonna
say
see
middle
it.
of D.
It could totally win games, unlike everything in poop tier, except maybe Microsoft Lettuce. But let's go to Summer Bloom. You can play 3 extra lands this turn. Wizards does not want to ban Primeval Titan. Really, really don't want to ban Primeval Titan. So cards like this are getting banned instead because I don't know. I don't know why we just don't ban Primeval Titan, but this is dying for Primetime Sins with Amulet of Vigor and the bounce lands. All that stuff is too much mana. So this is banned. Have you ever seen a Summer Bloom?
I have never seen a Summer Bloom. I think there's just better options, if you want to play Azusa or just things that statically let you play more than 1 land.
Yeah, Exploration, Burgeoning. We don't see Summer Bloom. Get out of here. Not below Punishing Fire, though. Nothing's below that. This next one, I didn't even know was banned, actually. I forgot about it because it was legal for such a short time. But Mia is a big fan of Tybalt's Trickery.
Tybalt's Trickery, 1 in a red, you can counter a spell in red, which is awesome. Its controller mills 1, 2, or 3 cards chosen at random, and then they flip the top, and they can play it for free.
Yeah, I think what got this banned in most formats was that people were just countering 0 drops like an Ornithopter and flipping some giant whatever the biggest threat in the format was. I'm sure it was different in Standard and Modern, whatever, but that's kind of funny that this card backfired so hard because it's supposed to be a red counter spell, not a proactive cheat things out. Anyway.
I like Tybalt's Trickery a lot. I think it's really good to have the option to interact on the stack, even though it's 1 piece, in colors that aren't blue. I think having that versatility is really nice.
I think this card kind of stinks, but I'm warming up a little bit. I want to try it. Where would you put this if this was just the Mia tier list?
I mean, I would say maybe top of C, bottom of B. I think it's playable, but I don't think it's should be played in every red deck, especially if you do have access to blue.
So we're going to compromise middle of C, I think.
Yeah, I think BZ's warming up to it because I've countered so much of his stuff with it.
I don't want to be confirmation biased, but I think... I don't know. It's so bad sometimes. Let's just go to Treasure Cruise. I'm not going to think about this too much. My brain will hurt. It draws 3 cards. You delve. It's really easy to delve. Same with Dig Through Time. I think we can actually shortcut a little bit. It's basically as good, if not slightly worse. So we can just throw it in B. A lot of decks want it.
Yeah, Treasure Cruise is good. You and I play it in a lot of decks.
Yeah, love that card. How about Umezawa's Jite, though? This can, like, when the creature hits, it gets counters, and you can remove the counters to do a bunch of stuff that you can gain to, shrink a creature or pump a creature +2, and it's maybe not that broken compared to some of the other cards, but it is on the modern ban list.
I think there's better in Commander. I actually have a copy of Umezawa's Jite hanging in my binder, and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, this thing is not great. I don't even think the Swords of X and Y are that good, but most of them are better than this thing, so you just want to stick it in, like, D tier?
Sure.
Bottom of D. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, just does too much. It's escapable, so it's recurable, it draws you a card, it gains you a life for literally no reason, and it's one of those cards that, like, was part of the Simic Oko. It was like Oko, Field of the Dead, Veil of Summer, Once Upon a Time, Uro, that just all got banned around the same exact time because they're all just dumb, and this is one of them.
I never really see any escapable stuff in Commander for the most part. The one I see most is Kroxa, actually.
Kroxa gets more card advantage because he makes everybody discard. So, like, it's very similar. But Uro's still good, I think. It's just like a card you never need. I feel like it's a C.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll even put it below Tybalt's Trickery.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I'd make, like, it'd be like, hey, why are you playing that if I saw it? But I would be a little confused.
Yeah, it is not a card you need to play. It would have to have some weird synergy. But Yorion is our last card, obviously. This is another companion. It was busted, and then it was just regular broken, and now it's banned because companions were a mistake. They were probably the biggest design mistake of all time. It's top 3, if not the first one.
I mean, I've seen Yorion in 1v1 because we've played on Arena, and it's been in, like, the Cube or whatever, and the blink effect is really powerful.
It's good. It was a deck in Standard the entire time, Modern the entire time until it got banned. It's just a really good flicker card. Like, I feel like it is a card I do want in Blink decks, so maybe it's like a B.
Yeah, I think it's playable.
Yeah.
And I think that it's good, but not great, you know, like S tier great.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the modern ban list converted into a Commander tier list. And if you want to see maybe a different banned tier list, you can watch this video. Mia, hit him with the fact of the day.
Fact of the day is Preordain isn't banned in Modern anymore, so hell yeah.